Welcome to the Grow My Salon Business podcast, where we focus on the business side of hairdressing. I'm your host, Antony Whitaker, and I'll be talking to thought leaders in the hairdressing industry, discussing insightful, provocative, and inspiring ideas that matter. So get ready to learn, get ready to be challenged, get ready to be inspired, and most importantly, get ready to grow your salon business. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast. I'm your host, Antony Whitaker, and as I always say, it's great to have you here with us today. So I want to start off by saying thank you for the reviews on the podcast. I really do appreciate them. And those reviews, they help the algorithm put us in front of more salon owners, and that allows them to find us too. So we really appreciate you doing reviews. If you haven't yet left us a review, though, all you need to do is go to the Apple Podcast app, search Grow My Salon Business, scroll to the bottom of the page and leave us a review. It'll only take a couple of minutes, but we would be very appreciative of it. So with that said, on with today's show. Over the next few weeks, in fact, I did one, I think last week, I'm doing a series of podcasts that will be focusing on the various forms of online education in the world of hairdressing. And my guest on today's podcast is one such person. He is Dublin-based hairdresser Paul Davey, who is also a salon owner and founder of Hairdressing Live, which is an online education platform and one of the first to make an impact in the space. So in today's podcast, what we're going to do is discuss what exactly is Hairdressing Live, what makes it different to other online platforms, and what Paul sees as the future of education, and so much more. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Paul Davey from the Davey Salon and online education company, Hairdressing Live.
Thank you very much, Anthony. It's very, very nice to be here talking to you. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely honored to be here. Had some incredible guests on the show. Incredible guests.
Thank you. Well, likewise, in a way, I'm returning the favor in that I've been on Hairdressing Live, and you've had quite a lineup of people on there over the years as well, which we're going to talk about. So what I like to do is to get my guest to effectively sort of introduce himself by doing a 2-minute backstory. So who is Paul Davey? And then we can dive into the rest of the stuff.
That's a very good question. I'm still trying to discover who Paul Davey is actually throughout my life. But as in a nutshell, I've been in the industry now for 27 years, Anthony, 27 years. I started when I was 17 years of age and in a little salon in Wales. I am from Wales. I'm from the UK originally. And I moved to Ireland 27 years ago and started with Tony and Guy. I went on to have multiple franchises with the company and sold up 12 years ago and opened up Davey along with my brother Ian. So I'm a co-founder of Davey with my brother. And I also have the online platform. I believe it's 6 years, just a little over 6 years, 7 years maybe, when it first started off. And I also have written a book. It's like more of a workbook called Elements Education. And it's realistically came about when I wanted to install an education structure into my own salon. So it's basically been a birth child from that.
Right.
And and we've also got the video collection to support all the learning from the book as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, well, we will dig into that. I do want to ask you about your salon background as well as the education side of things, but I just want to throw you a bit of a curveball. I forgot you were originally from Wales. I just wanted to ask you if you've been watching Welcome to Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Have you watched it?
You know what? I haven't. And I tell you why I haven't. I really do want to watch it, and many people have told me to tune into that because it's a remarkable business story. Really, it's an amazing achievement what they've done, and turned it on its head. And I think they've got some incredible sponsors on board. But I have no TV. I've had no TV for a long time. I got rid of my TV. I've Netflix and I have a YouTube, and that's about it. That's all I watch, actually.
Okay.
So I got rid of it all for distractions, actually. That was more to do with distractions.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, it's if you get a chance to watch it, not just you, but all our
I will do.
listeners as well. It's called Welcome to Wrexham. It's with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who are the owners of this little football club called Wrexham, and it's in Wales. And many people haven't even heard of Wales, let alone Wrexham. Do you know what I mean? So it's a great rags to riches sort of story, and Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney are fantastic in it. But it's a great, as you said, it's a great business story, but it's also because it's great marketing, but it's just a great story about community. If you want me to sum it up, it's like the strength of community and passion, and it's really it's a good one. So where are we going to start? The salon. So you talked about your time with Tony and Guy, having franchises, all that sort of stuff. Then you decided that you'd open up your own salon. Are you still on the floor behind the chairs?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm behind the chair almost 4 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week.
Right.
I'm pretty active. I work consecutively. I'm very much. I like work. I'm not frightened of it. I've always had that mindset to keep myself focused and everything. But I truly believe even going into business and that really learning my way. I mean, I'm very creative and I love the creative outlet, but I'm kind of torn because I like the creativity, but I'm also very highly invested in the business side of things as well, which is kind of a game of tug and war. So I'm kind of stepping in and stepping out.
Yeah.
But Tony and Guy was somewhere that really, I mean, I was 22 owning my first salon with them. I was very young. I was very ambitious. I was very courageous at that time because you're taking a level of investment with a number of zeros behind it was quite daunting. But at the time, because you're quite young and courageous, you kind of work your way through it. And I always knew I could actually just work my backside off, but I could always work very hard to pay off that loan. And I knew what we could do and knew what we could achieve. And with the support from Tony and Guy at the time was remarkable. I learned hugely from my peer group, people that were older than me, that were established a lot more. I almost put that down as my college years. I love talking to people. I love communicating. I love sharing ideas. That is why I guess podcasts are so popular for people, because we get to learn so much from different conversations that go on. People who are like a little bit more closed door don't open up the opportunities in the world. And I believe in opening up yourself in order to let the world in, to create more opportunities in the world. And I truly believe during those years, I learned a lot. I learned what not to do, what to do, and what was successful and what wasn't successful. Like I said, it was all my university years in business, but I sometimes believe in if you think about business too much, and you can go to college, you can go to university, and I applaud people that do that. But there's no better learning than actually getting to do something.
Yeah, business is a great educator, isn't it? It will teach you a lot about yourself, about other people, about life, and you're forced to learn a lot about money and marketing and team building and leadership. And it's like most people are completely unprepared for that going to happen. Before we were recording, you started a conversation about the value of work and your work ethic.
I generally believe there's multiple different people in the world that like to work hard. They don't like to work hard. People just want to put in a minimum amount of effort for for a little bit of output, right? So I think I always had that upbringing with my parents, work hard, that really strong work ethic, and I sometimes hear more conversations about work-life balance, and I completely applaud that. But there's also we're very impressionable upon other people, and that narrative is being created more and more and more about working less, wanting more money. The more you work less and the more money you want, businesses can't operate that way, right? So what's the future for business? So sometimes I kind of look at that and go, we still need to work hard, either raise our prices a lot more, work hard, but when you work hard, the harder you work, you get a better return for your value, right? So if I guess my message is this, is that the more you put in, the more you get out. So if you want to work less, it has a different result. So you can't ask for something or expect something, the quality of life, if you don't want to put in the time. And there's room for everybody, Anthony. I'm not saying it's a specific generation, because I knew I worked with people before years ago. They wanted to, maybe work 2 or 3 days a week, and that was fine by them, and that's fine. But I guess my view is that we're very impressionable upon other people, and that message, I want to get the message out there that I like working hard. I like investing my time, because I know I'm not always going to be able to do it, Anthony. I'm going to reach an age where I kind of want to maybe slow down a little bit more. But I am very enthusiastic. I'm very ambitious. I'm very courageous in my approach sometimes in doing things. And I think that has a level of return of investment. What I have, I'm very proud of. And I think if you look at somebody having something, you've got to reverse engineer what they've achieved and how they've achieved it. And a lot of time, like even sports people, the investment of their time to get to where they have achieved. I was listening to Gary Neville. He talked about his family one time, and he was saying his partner used to say to him, be more present, be more present. But his mind was always like thinking about the next thing in business and in sports. I mean, he's a businessman now. And I'm kind of like that as well. I'm always thinking about the next thing. Although I have 2 children, 2 precious children, and I have my partner, and I enjoy every moment I share with them. But I always believe that I want to show them as well that, working hard has a level of, you can be proud about that.
I totally agree. And I think that one of the good things, it's partly COVID, but I think it was happening before COVID, in that there was a way of thinking that it wasn't just about this new generation, Gen Z. It was partly them that were really questioning this. You use the word work-life balance. I've heard a lot of people talk about it lately as being, I don't believe in work-life balance. It's more about work-life integration. And I think, that's interesting, how the two sort of coincide. And I like the fact that this generation, I've got 2 kids in that generation as well, and they question everything that's come before. And so they should, because we questioned everything that came before as well. And so we should as well. And so a lot of people will look at them and go, well, they don't like working as hard. But I'm not going to say that necessarily, because I'm glad that you agreed that there's people in every generation that never particularly liked working hard. I like working hard. I love work. I don't apologize for it. I absolutely love working, and I'm very ambitious too. And I think that having ambition is a real gift, regardless of what generation you're in. Absolutely. It's such a gift, because there's a lot of young people that don't have ambition, that they might have the right education, the right family, the right opportunities, but if they don't have any ambition, then how are they going to evolve?
Yeah. And I kind of go, if we're cultivating new people coming into the industry, working less hours, we don't have the data on that at the moment. Yeah. What does that look like in 10, 20 years down the line, where we're a little bit more, a softer approach to work? I mean, that's well and good if their salary is able to sustain the rising costs of rent, the rising costs of houses. I mean, how are you supposed to survive that way if you don't have like a work, strong work ethic? I think in this generation now, we have to work harder than we've ever had to work. We have to make money. So I guess my point is, it's just a question mark over that. I mean, please show me, another way of doing things. But what I know and what I'm very familiar with is by working hard in order to, make money to pay for all my bills and have a life that I like to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know?
Okay.
And that is my point,
Yeah,
really.
no, it's a good point. Okay, so part of that is you're a salon owner. How many salons do you have now? Because I know when I last spoke to you, you had two, but there was a situation going on with one of them. Do you just want to give me an update on that?
Yeah, well, we did have two. We had two lovely salons located in the centre of Dublin city centre, and really, really nice salons. And we underwent a little issue where we got flooded. There was an issue with the road. Something happened with works on the road, and it flooded the basement of the salon. I mean, this went on for 6.5 years. But in short, everybody turned their back. The council, Irish Water, and then the landlord, everybody turned their back. So we ended up with a situation where we had no shop, we had no location. So we had to move everybody to our second location. And hopefully, we were very hopeful that this could be rectified within a month, 2 months. And it went on for 6.5 years. So we have just recently successfully won that case. So I'm very thankful for that. But in the interim, we've actually lost the location because of the way everything actually transpired, and with the legal pursuit, it had to conclude as losing the location, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you've got one salon now.
Yeah. So I mean, what that left me with there, Anthony, was basically, I mean, we were in a situation of growing Davey. And I don't know if anybody else has gone through the similar sort of thing. I mean, they could share the same story, but we absolutely stopped our growth because we had this pending in the background. We didn't know which way it was going. So we were kind of very much in the mindset of, we're going to go back, and then grow the business. So it was in the mindset that we were going to go back there, maybe work on 2 locations to build them up as a salon group. But it froze everything that we did for 6.5 years. So, our business mindset changes in 6.5 years as well. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, everything's changed in the last 6.5 years.
Everything's changed.
Yeah,
exactly.
What do you wish? I know you had a segue into salon ownership via a franchise operation where there was a lot of support, etc. But what do you wish you'd known before you'd opened a salon?
That's a very good question. I personally think. Don't take me the wrong way here. I think sometimes the less you know, the better, right? Because if you knew what you had to go through, you sometimes wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
And I sometimes think, the pessimism of the intellect, the more intellectual you are about things, the more pessimistic you are to do something, right? So I'm not saying I wasn't intelligent enough to go into it, but it's basically when you go into those things, if you don't know everything and you work your way through each, I mean, I do believe I have a life learning way of thinking is that little incremental improvements compounded over time. If you had to know everything about business, you'd possibly go through your whole life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Getting ready. Yeah. Sometimes
getting ready.
It's like that old expression, instead of ready, aim, fire. A lot of people go ready, aim, and they never actually pull the trigger. So I get it. Okay, let's talk about Hairdressing Live, which is the main sort of focus of what we're going to talk about today. What exactly is Hairdressing Live for those people who haven't heard of it and don't know anything about it?
Okay, Hairdressing Live originated. It came from the fact that we were doing lots of presentations, we were doing lots of teaching at the time, and I used to talk. I mean, your hairdressing salon is an amazing place to talk to lots of people. Lots of different industries come through your seat, and you get to network with so many different people. And I knew that there was lots of different industries communicating across the world and delivering either team meetings. And I used to think to myself, we are doing lots of presentations. Why can't we share our information worldwide? That's where it kind of originated. And then I started searching for things online to see if there was anything out there. There wasn't really anything there. I think at the time there was My Hairdresser. I think My Hairdresser was there,
Okay.
pre-recorded, and there was no live classes for hairdressing. So that's where we started.
So how long ago was this?
It was 7 years in November. It was.
Okay.
So it was in January we kind of released and started in January. Now, having said that, when you have an idea, Anthony, that everybody has ideas. Everybody has lots of ideas, pub talk ideas. I've got a great idea. I'm not going to share this with you, whatever. But it's the process that brings an idea to life. Now, with anything you do, even business, I've always wanted to run a business. I've always wanted to run a business, and people always say that. And it's the process that scares people. So the process behind this was actually quite grueling. Lots of jumping over 10-foot walls. And we continue to hit obstacles along the way. I mean, as the website has evolved, we've hit another obstacle. So I may come to that in a few moments. But it took a long time for me to choose the right softwares to build the website. We had to get like 3 different plugins. There was a payment processor. We had the live stream, and then we had to build the website around that. So it was almost like getting 3 different languages to speak to each other. You don't realize all these things. And as a hairdresser, I'm a creative, a bit, love business as well. But there was a lot of work which was involved in the back end to make that work.
Yeah.
And ever since we released it, we launched it, we have been able to, I can only be so thankful to everybody that's got on board, including yourself, to share knowledge in such a way that we wanted to create an umbrella, a place where it wasn't just about Paul Davey's education. It wasn't just about Antony Whitaker. It wasn't just about, lots of different individual hair. It was about bringing, sharing multiple different inspirations and multiple ideas and sharing it under one roof, if that made sense. So sharing lots of different backgrounds, different, shining light on some hairdressers that you may never get to see, in the session world, that they don't do education. They don't really, come to do presentations in salons. You don't get to see that, a lot of the time. So it was to shine light on those people, as well as obviously service our audience with, day-to-day education, your sort of your basic, highlighting your one length haircuts, your salon friendly cuts, as well as your inspirational.
Right. And so it's all online, and
it's all online.
It's haircut, colors, session work, and even a business component to it, yeah?
And a business component. So we cover everything on there, really, yeah.
Okay.
So it's, it's to show, exactly that.
Right. So I guess, I was going to ask you what makes Hairdressing Live different to the competition. I suppose that's part of the answer is what you've just told us. Is it a library of pre-recorded content, or is it called Hairdressing Live for a reason because it's live streaming and people can join a class? How does that work?
Exactly. It was called Hairdressing Live because we wanted it to be live. And obviously every class that we record is live. It was live anyway, up until just recently. But we have filmed because COVID happened. It was very difficult to kind of operate. It kind of stopped our growth because we had lots of people booked throughout that year, and we had to stop traveling and so on and so forth. So we had to rethink our model. But Hairdressing Live really started, the origin of it all was to invite people to a live audience where they could ask questions. And it was, very authentic that way. It wasn't going to be hidden behind a pre-edited environment. And at the time, it was very current. It was very current to be very raw and authentic that way in a live environment. As the business has continued, it becomes more polished, a little bit more polished, and it becomes a little bit more edited for the viewing attention span. Mm-hmm. So some classes, as you know yourself, can go on for like maybe an hour and a half. We did film one class, which was like 6 hours long, but that was multiple different segments, if you like. But we did film it from start to finish, and we had a live audience. And we used to have live audiences, so it was quite authentic and quite raw that way. But like I said, as our viewer has changed over the years, they want something a little bit more streamlined, a bit more cut down, a cut down version, so it's easier to digest and easier to watch. So it has become more polished, and we've had to pivot, we've had to evolve, and we're continuously evolving that way, you know.
Okay.
So and that is one of the main reasons why we've gone from live to pre-recorded almost, but you're still getting that live environment. That person still introduces themselves, and you're still getting all that, you know, the talking, the like sometimes we have audiences there, so when they're prompting questions, they're encouraging people to ask questions.
Got it. Okay. And so how do people access it? Is it a, you know, subscription-based thing, a monthly membership thing, or do they pay a lump sum? I mean, how does that work?
So how it has transpired is we've, like I said, in business, you're always kind of pivoting, right? Up until just recently, you could buy the individual class, but we've now changed it into a subscription model. So you gain access to, it's €25 per month, and you gain access to the full library of content. And that's how we've operated. But beforehand, you were able to zone in, and like Paul Davey, you can buy one of Paul Davey's class for, you know, €15-20. You can buy individual classes. But why we had to change that was, I mean, I share this with you because this interests me, and I you know, and hopefully it interests other people. When you're in business, and I don't want to sort of sugarcoat it, you're always faced with so many different hurdles. And with our payment processor changed overnight. They were moving forward. They were changing their sort of back end programs, and their packages all changed, and they wanted to move everybody up. And, you know, so realistically, what happened to us, we overnight, they, you know, changed our business basically, and we had to rethink what we had to do. So we had to change the payment processor. So if you can imagine, of years of work building a program, building a website and the back end, and then we're having to pivot again. You know, we're no different to many businesses that way. So we've changed now and we've reconstructed. So we're almost like working with two different websites, if you like.
Yeah.
So we've got the new website where everybody, all the new customers go and visit. And then we've also got the old website there as well, sitting in the back end.
And you mentioned earlier on, you said something about elements. You told me a little bit about it. And again, I thought just hold off with that until we can, you know, talk in detail about it. So how does elements fit in to Hairdressing Live?
Yeah, very, very good. So it was very much thought out in regards to, like, you know, from our customer base, from our client base, asking about basic techniques or your fundamental techniques from start to finish. I mean, Hairdressing Live was very much an inspirational tool, or trend orientated of the moment in time. You know, throughout the decades, we go through different trends, and so it's quite trend orientated. But there was no integration of how do I like the building blocks to becoming a hairstylist. And almost like what I was saying, you know, incremental improvements compounded over time to become a hairstylist. I don't think we talk about this enough. I mean, when I was creating Elements was, you know, I wrote a book and I did a step-by-step, but each book, you know, if I take hair cutting, for instance, you know, you start with a one-length haircut. You do maybe a few layers through the front. right? They're incremental little things rather than, I truly believe sometimes that people want to jump to the balayage. They want to jump to the shag haircut now, the wolf haircut. They're very much attracted by that. But to get there, you need to learn the basics. So I'm talking about breaking this down as in building blocks in order to help you become comfortable rather than overwhelming you with one haircut and going, oh my God, I've learned that haircut. But what this really does to you when you learn that way, it really builds your confidence and it builds your trust in hair cutting. Which allows us, as fashion changes, trends evolve, right? Fashion changes, trends evolve. But when you get taught in such a way that it's building blocks, it allows us to navigate and adapt our way through trends in a comfortable way, right? So, new trends emerge. And when you have the background of your education, which allows you those building blocks, you're able to have longevity in your career. Rather than, it's almost like a sugar rush, that sugar rush mentality. I get high for one moment. I learn that one thing. I can do that very well. And then a new trend emerges. God, I'm panicking and I get overwhelmed. I'm getting anxious because I don't know what's coming through that door. I truly believe, coming through that door as in, I don't know what a client's going to ask for me with me next, right? Yeah. I don't know whether they're going to ask for like a balayage or whether they're going to ask me for another wolf cut, or then a journalist actually creates a new haircut and you have to adapt your way around that. I truly believe in the fundamentals of building blocks to becoming a successful behind the chair stylist. So that is what Elements is predicated on. It's there installed into Hairdressing Live as from start to finish.
So it is part of Hairdressing Live, is it?
It's part of Hairdressing Live, but it's not part of the subscription.
Oh, right, okay.
It's an additional cost.
So it's a video training thing, an additional cost, part of Hairdressing Live, but it's very much about the fundamentals.
It's your fundamentals of hairdressessing.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So, and you get your book, you get like a 365-page book where you learn everything about theory and all your wow. So it's all your theory subjects, and it's written by a hairdresser. You hear this all the time, written by a hairdresser, made for hairdressers. I mean, I've written this book, and I did have a copywriter to rewrite it to make myself sound intelligent, but just to get rid of all the grammar mistakes and everything. But I've made it as colorful and engaging as possible. But I do truly believe that they are your core elements. 100 years of hair fashion. You get to learn all about the history of hair and how it's evolved over the years and the decades. And you've got your hair follicle, you've got your color wheel, you've got everything within that book, which is allows you the knowledge and the confidence to basically stand behind the chair and be proud about your education, be proud about what you've learned throughout this book and throughout the video collection, that you can stand there quite confidently and talk about, this. I say this in presentations. A lot of clients come in and go, Paul, tell me what's in trend right now, what's in fashion right now. And sometimes it's nice to understand where trends have been, which because fashion designers look at the past to go into the future, right? So we are looking towards the past to go into the future. It's the same with hair. Like, when you look throughout the decades over the years, you start seeing like 90s trend right now, the jeans, the clothing, the center parting, the people are growing the hair out a little bit more. It's very much that 90s culture. I'm starting to see the Rachel haircut come back into fashion again. Oh my God, that polluted our hairdressing salons for many, many years. Polluted. I say polluted. I loved that haircut, but towards the end it became a little bit. And I start seeing the Meg Ryan shag haircut being very much a prominent inspiration of today's haircutting. So for me, it's understanding the past to go into the future. So for me, it's like you you need to learn all these aspects of hairdressing, which allows you the confidence that you can, reference these people sat behind your chair.
Yeah. No, it's the difference between, and you've sort of said this, but I'm going to summarize it. You've said that it's the difference between learning a haircut or learning how to cut hair. And
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
people learn a haircut. They haven't learned how to cut hair. So they're not very adaptable as trends change and evolve. And another thing you said, which I really want to go back to, and you maybe even didn't consciously say it, you said, and a journalist invents a new haircut or something. And I was like, hang about, where's he going with that? So tell me what you meant by that.
No, I always feel as a behind the chair stylist myself, you hear clients come in and they use different references that they've read. And I mean, I love the way journalists have a play on words because it's exciting. It inspires me, inspires our clientele, and it sort of, it becomes like a reflux in fashion. It gives us a different look of a fashion trend at that time. So I don't mean that in any negative form. I mean, nowadays it's social media. Social media, you'll get people have a play on the words, like the Bixie is a pixie, but a Bob Bixie, and I love all these plays on words. But if you didn't know the wording, or you didn't know the name, it's exciting to hear new words and different sorts of
exactly.
But I think you really need to understand. Like again, it goes back to the core understanding of learning. I mean, creative hair cutting is realistically a play on classic techniques. I mean, you would agree with that, would you, Anthony?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I
Totally.
mean,
Totally. I mean, sometimes you'll read about it in a magazine or whatever, and really they're validating what you are already doing, but they've given it a nice word, a name, a title and you sort of think to yourself, I've been doing that for the last 12 months or whatever it is. With Hairdressing Live, where is your audience from? I mean, I know you're based in Dublin, but these days with an online platform, they can be anywhere. So, typically, where is your audience from?
we have been viewed in 78 countries. It has on our dashboard 78
Fabulous.
countries,
Good.
which is absolutely incredible. I'm very, very honored to see that. But I think you can share it with me. When you have the data, you've got a lot of people like ones and twos in certain countries, but predominantly our viewers come from the UK, Ireland. Ireland's a big market for us as well. The UK is a massive market for us, and the US and Australia. It's mainly English-speaking countries. We haven't adapted our way through the different languages yet, but with AI, I think we're going to be able to do that a little bit more comprehensively and easier. We're going to be able to adapt through that transition a bit more comfortably, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now I know that, like anything, it takes a team, to bring something to reality. And I know that, like me, your wife Philippa is very much involved in making Hairdressing Live happen. A little bit like, Grow My Salon Business. Melinda is 100% involved in making everything happen. And if she wasn't there, I dare say it wouldn't happen. But anyway, with Hairdressing Live, what's Philippa's sort of overall role?
Well, I think in emails she's the head of marketing, but she does a lot more than that. She is the content creator, she copywriter, she does the website editing. She's a web designer. Oh my good God. I mean, we do have a team of people. We have people editing videos. We have people working back end doing SEOs. We have a team of people. We've got directors, we've got videographers, we've got photographers as well that work with us. So Philippa really is coordinating the whole business back end. I could not do it without her. I mean, she's actually currently not here with me today, and we undergo some technical difficulties there where I was thinking, where is she right now? Because I really need her here. But yeah, she is very much one of those people who is very calm. I mean, she's a mother of my two children as well. And to have somebody like that calm aura about her is it's profound. It's absolutely, it's invaluable to me to have that.
It's essential.
Yeah, it's very much essential.
Yeah, I mean, I refer to Melinda as the Chief Everything Officer, the CEO. Do you know what I mean? And that's pretty much it.
I think I need to change her signature, or ask her to change her signature.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so just getting back to education for a minute, how do you see education evolving? I mean, as you've said, Hairdressing Live has continually evolved and grown, and they've added elements to the mix, etc. Where do you see not just it, meaning your product, in 5 years' time, but how do you see education evolving? And obviously, we have to talk about AI as being part of that, because that's been a real game changer, and you've already sort of touched on that. But what are your thoughts about that?
I constantly question my thought process in education, because this question does get. I ask myself these questions, should I say? So I do pose these questions to myself. How does it evolve? Hairdressing, we had a great time throughout COVID and before COVID. We were really climbing massively. And a lot of people enjoy the luxury of having online education. Once COVID ended, a lot of people, we found a lot of people dropped off. So we've got data, we've got graphs, and I predicate my view on my data as well. A lot of people wanted more in-salon education going into places. They wanted to really feel that connection with people a lot more. So academies would have been a lot busier. We found ourselves doing a lot more in-salon courses that way. But I mean, for me, I think online education definitely has a place. It has a place because it has a huge value to people that don't have access. They may live more remotely. A lot of people have moved out of cities. So moving out of cities became more suburban living. They don't have access to maybe people that do education, maybe in cities that way. So online education will definitely have a place for people. And I truly believe that online education can be a cheaper resource, and people can still have their finger on the pulse. In-salon education costs a lot more money, and rightly so, because you've got venues, you've got to pay educators, you've got that's a completely different cost again. And it's a whole day of somebody's time, So I definitely think online education will definitely work simultaneously to academies in that situation. But I hope to believe that, we don't lose sight of our industry, that it becomes like a sugar rush learning, because our attention spans getting narrower and narrower, that including myself, that we don't lose touch of learning our core aspects of hairdressing. Because then what happens with the overall standard of the industry, it's that it will lower, and I would hate that to see diminish, and I think we still need to keep our core learning very much the forefront of the education structure.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. I mean, I agree with that too, that we're very social beings, hairdressers, and I think they need, in an education context, you will always have both. You'll have that hybrid of that face-to-face, sense of community that I touched on when I was even talking about Wrexham Football Club at the beginning. But that sense of community is really important, I think, in our industry, that people like to get together. But some of the other things that you touched on, and obviously I'm in a different business, but I'm in the same business, in that I'm a digital, educator as well, primarily now, not exclusively, but primarily. And there are so many advantages to it, as you've just alluded to. It is more cost effective because it's a lot more expensive to go out into someone else's location, etc. And then the other advantages, as you were talking, I was writing them down, is that for both your business and my business, it's mobile. Like, someone can be sat waiting for the bus, watching a video on how to cut hair, or listening to me talk about, business. And it's also, and I think this will have a big impact, it's more environmentally friendly. So instead of you or the audience hopping on planes and flying everywhere, it's more environmentally friendly. They can also repeat it. So you can watch that haircut again and again and again. If it's on a hairdressing live video, it's not a live demonstration that you see it once and you can't go back to it. And you can watch bite-sized pieces. So you can just do 20 minutes here and then you can come back and watch that 20 minutes again if you want. You don't have to sit there for the whole day watching a demonstration. I think that online education is here to stay and it will only go from strength to strength, but I don't think it will ever replace, and nor should it, the one-to-one human element. I think the two will complement each other, and I think that'll be good for everybody.
I truly believe in what you've just said there. I mean, the reason what I was referring to there, I noticed a drop off after COVID because everybody wanted to go back into that environment and wanted to travel a little bit, maybe spend the trip away. But people had money there, people had cash. But you've got a lot of people, what you don't realize is people have children, people have additional costs. The cost of living's gone up a lot more. So to be able to stay in tune, which nobody had the availability of before. Now you can stay in tune and have your finger on the pulse with all this online education, including myself with all the presentations that we do. And you can stay involved in the industry, and that's a very, very important part, and a cost effective and more of a sustainable way as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Well, listen, we've got 5 minutes left, so I've got some quick questions for you. Really about your personal skills of success. So first one is what's your biggest strength?
My biggest strength? You know what? Whether this is considered the strength, I would say my ambition. I have a strong ambition that fuels a lot of my driving, my progress and my process. It really,
Yeah, I used to gloss over that word ambition, and I met someone recently who doesn't have a lot of ambition, and I looked at this person and I thought, that's what's missing in your life. You don't have any ambition, and ever since then I've been on banging the drum about how important ambition is. Because you can have everything else, but if you have no ambition, you're going to go nowhere. And it's important to want, to be, to do, to create, to have more of whatever.
It's to have a purpose, isn't it? The
ambition,
exactly. Surfaces the purpose. I mean, the purpose in life to go forward, and that becomes my purpose. It just fuels it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
Okay. What drives you? It's very much connected to the last question, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm always peeking around the corner. I'm curious. To find out what's next, and obviously we don't know what's in front of us sometimes, but I'm very curious to find out what's behind the curtain always.
Yeah.
So I'm always like driving forward. I mean, yes, I have visions. I have goals. Of course I do, long-term goals. But, what's my North Star? I mean, I have a North Star. Once I still have my ambition to drive my purpose, I will get to my North Star.
Right. Okay. So ambition and curiosity stood out as a really important component to that. How do you, or what's the key to reinvention and staying relevant? Because you've been in the industry, I think you said 27 years, so you're still a baby, but you're always evolving and growing and, pushing the envelope. What's the key to that?
Well, I fortunately have been lucky enough to work with lots of different people, including yourself. I mean, in business, I listen to you. I listen and see so many different hairdressers, and that drives me as well. So I'm always very curious to find out what they're doing and see their presentations, and it's very impressionable upon myself. But what keeps me relevant is the process. Lots of people will ask the question, like they want to do a shoot, they want to do a new style, they want to do something that they haven't done before, but they're trying to picture what they want to do, right? So there's a starting point and this is the end point. They're thinking about the end point, right? And I always think this is a very good learning, is that it stops people from getting there because they don't have the idea. But when you start the process, you start looking behind other things, you start practicing, you start toying with hair in a creative way, and then you create something that you didn't have the vision of before. So you start creating things, you discover new things that you didn't know before.
Yeah, okay, all right. So last two questions then. The first one is, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned in life? It doesn't have to be about business or hairdressing. Just if you were passing on to, you said you had a couple of kids, and if they said to you, Dad,
God.
what's the most important lesson you've learned in life? How would you answer it in 30 seconds?
God, that's a very, very hard one, isn't it?
Yeah. Without if you don't get the chance to think about it, I suppose it is. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you just want the best for people, right? You just want the best for people, enjoy life. But I think, happiness doesn't come with, just be happy, right? It comes with lots of different disciplines. Enjoy life, but work hard, be disciplined in what you do. Turn up, be focused, show up and turn up, like mentally, physically.
Yeah.
I think that's always be present and be the best that you can be. Be the best you can be.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. When things don't work out for you, and as we both acknowledge, it's a journey, and business, you have challenges and frustrations, etc. How do you overcome adversity? What's the sort of short answer to that?
For me, I mean, we're always greeted, sometimes can. I mean, adversity, you dig deep, right? There's a core ingredient in most of us that when faced with adversity, we really, really are able to let our brain, our body really take action there. I think you have to trust the process and your body and your mindset. I mean, when we're faced with certain things, there's always a way. Think clearly. For me personally, I've been hit with adversity over the years, but I think if I've got a clear head, I can absolutely deal with anything.
Yeah.
Once I've got a clear head
and navigate your way through it. Yeah. Good. Okay. What do you wish you were better at besides tech?
Do you know what? I'm going to say one thing here, which I'm trying to learn more of, is listening. I would love to listen better.
Okay.
There we go.
That's good.
I found in education, I think there's bad listeners, and I sometimes come under that bracket. Even like bad listeners, even to your parents, your mum, your dad. You've always have this thing about trying to give your opinion and try to give your the answer for them, but sometimes they just want to be listened to. Do you know what I mean? Go on, tell me more.
Yeah.
And I think you have more value that way. But I think in education, for me to be a better listener, to get to real understanding on how people, because ultimately there's loads people learn differently, and trying to really establish how that person is learning is important to me.
That's a really good point. Really good point. Okay. Well, look, we need to wrap up. Whereabouts can people connect with you on Instagram or any other social channels, website, whatever? Where do you want to send them?
Yeah, they can go to Paul Davey Hair on the obvious one on Instagram. You've got Hairdressing Live also on Instagram and Facebook. If you go to hairdressinglive.com, you can get to see all our video libraries, multiple different hairstylists and business speakers, business thinkers, and also you've got Elements Education available on there as well. So.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll put those links on our website, growmysalonbusiness.com, and in the show notes for today's podcast. So if you've been listening to this podcast with Paul Davey and have enjoyed it, then do me a favor, take a screenshot on your phone, share it to your Instagram stories, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. So to wrap up, Paul Davey, thank you for being the guest on this week's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Antony. Thank you very much.
It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you'd like to connect with us, you'll find us at growmysalonbusiness.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Grow My Salon Business. And if you enjoyed tuning into our podcast, make sure that you subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Until next time, this is Antony Whitaker, wishing you continued success.